So now, why do you think, I mean, we've heard so much about the reasons why someone should get a trust. Why is estate planning so necessary?
Yeah, so I think estate planning, trust, wills, like those words get thrown around a lot. And so estate planning, just to clarify for everyone watching, it's this umbrella, right? Where it includes numerous documents. It includes a trust, it includes a will, it includes an advanced healthcare directive, and a power of attorney. Now, the trust and the will work together upon death when you pass away. Incapacitation, when either you have dementia, say you're in a car accident and you end up with brain damage and you can't make financial or medical decisions for yourself, the healthcare directive and power of attorney then step in. And so when we create an estate plan, we're creating a comprehensive plan. So if you become incapacitated or if you pass away, your family has these documents in place to make sure they don't end up in court. And when emotions are high, right, there's already kind of like a plan and, you know, logical next steps in place without people trying to figure it out while emotions are high and they're still trying to navigate things. Right. Or especially if it's a car accident, right? Or there's some kind of an emergency, they're like, oh my gosh, or somebody passed away. Like, people can't think straight. And so in that moment, things can happen that would not have been in the best interest of the beneficiaries or the people left behind. So having an estate plan and all those documents at every stage of life is super important.
Yes. And an advanced healthcare directive can specifically say if you're incapacitated, what shall happen.
Yep.
I know something that my sister and I were talking about is if I was in a coma. And she's like, no, I would just leave you there. And I'm like, I don't know if you can or not, but no, pull the plug. I don't want to just be there. Well, I mean, after a month, you could pull it.
Yeah, so I get a lot of, when it comes to the healthcare directive, and they're like, but some people, there's like a miracle and like 10 years later. And I'm like, look, do you know how expensive that's going to be? One. And two, if the doctor's saying there's no brain activity, right, do you really want those costs and expenses to kind of build up, right?
Exactly.
Because, but yeah, so you can have a healthcare directive that says, you know, if you want to be an organ donor, if you want to donate your tissues, if you're going to stay on life support, or if you're like, just keep me comfortable. And then there's something that, just for clarification, is an advanced healthcare directive is different from a DNR. Sometimes people will ask, I need a DNR, and I'm like, we don't do those. DNR is something that goes to the doctors and signs off, meaning like, do not resuscitate. And so when we're creating these plans and we're thinking about medical decisions, when we look at the healthcare directive, it's, if I was in a coma and I need a surgery, who's making those decisions for me?
Yes.
Do they understand what I want done to my body? It's basically maintaining autonomy of your body and picking someone who's going to then make the decisions based on, you know, your values.
Yes.
You can also put whether or not, if you're in a persistent vegetative state, right? Because there's two things that can happen. One, you're in a coma, but there's brain activity. So the doctor's like, oh, they can hear, but they can't respond, right? So there's still brain activity. The other is a persistent vegetative state, which means the doctor's like, there's no brain activity. They're just going to be there. They're just a vegetable. Like, you can't communicate with them. They have no idea what you're saying. At that point, right, you're like, pull the plug, please.
Yes.
Or you're just going to keep accruing medical expenses. And then with a DNR, it's a do not resuscitate. And so that's different in that if you select DNR, like do not resuscitate, that means even if you're having a heart attack, they're not going to pull the paddles out for you. So like someone like us, if we end up with a heart attack, please try to save me. Like, pull everything, you know, like all the things, do all the
and
things.
Don't stop.
And don't stop. Right? And so, but if it's someone who's like 90 years old, they've had cancer and they're just kind of waiting, right? And they're like, please do not try to resuscitate me. If I have a heart attack and I die, let me go.
Yes.
And so the DNR can only be done by a medical professional. And that's because there's a big differentiation between being 90, right? And I don't want any support to kind of bring me back. Being our age, and you're like, yes, try everything necessary. And so there's essentially two different things, right? So it's the Advanced Healthcare Directive and the DNR. But
thank you for explaining that. I don't think I've ever even heard of that.
Yeah.